So I am here for two reasons: to make the person coming after me have a much easier job when they come and present, and also to just give you a bit, and I have a confidence monitor, to give you a bit of an overview of how I see the space. Some of this is going to touch on some of the things that Bonin just spoke about. I think it'll be a good sort of overview and highlight of the talks that are going to be coming today. So I have a short period of time, so let me just zip into this. That's me in my more sort of stern face. I promise not to be a stern presenter today. For those of you who don't know, PSFK, we do a lot of stuff around retail and CX innovation and just kind of innovation in general. Subscribe to our newsletter, check it out. I assume this presentation will be available after the fact as well. If not, feel free to drop me an email and I will send it your way, Scott@PSFK. Whoops. All right. So just a quick sort of look at what we mean when we say messaging. A lot of the conversation that I'm going to focus on today is going to be around this sort of OTT space. This is by no means comprehensive, but really sort of looking at the sort of top platforms that are available today. You have certainly the native apps that are on the major devices today: Samsung, Android, and iMessage. And then just in general, we have these sort of embedded messaging behaviors on a lot of these adjacent apps. Your Twitch, your Slacks, your Twitters, et cetera, that are really sort of just making that sort of act of communicating with one another so much more prevalent today, and why it's such a huge opportunity to exploit. Some things to sort of think about as we talk about just what your consumers are saying and doing. 11 minutes, the average time in 2018 that US adults spent within the context of messaging apps on a day-to-day basis. 50% of time globally spent in 2018 was on social and communication apps, of which messaging are a part. 68% of consumers expect messaging to enable better customer experiences, and I think that CX opportunity is huge. For me, this 58% is extremely interesting. 58% of consumers who received a call from a business actually tried to text them back. So it's already a behavior. No one wants to be on the phone today. It's just where we're at. And it's that embedded behavior that businesses aren't necessarily taking advantage of. Some of the major things that people are doing within the messaging space: messaging business to ask about a product, messaging to get customer support, and then actually 75% are going through that process of actually completing a purchase within the context of a messaging app. On Facebook Messenger alone, 10 billion messages were sent over the course of 2018 to global businesses. We always talk about social as the sort of huge opportunity space, but just to kind of set the context a little bit, on my left, you have the four largest messaging apps in the world today. That's Facebook Messenger, WeChat, QQ, and WhatsApp. 4.87 billion monthly active users on per month versus the four biggest social networks, 5.75 billion. I almost didn't put YouTube in there. Questionable whether that's content or social, but there's certainly those messaging aspects. The numbers would be much closer if I didn't include YouTube there. But we always talk about social, but what about all those users that are currently on messaging apps? Quick little look at just some of the numbers. I actually found higher numbers in terms of monthly active users on WeChat, but the top three platforms over 1 billion monthly active users that are engaging with those platforms as well. Just some things to think about. Within the past 12 months, there's been a lot of heat happening within the messaging space, particularly around the four major players. We have Facebook here, which has redesigned its messenger platform to focus on simplicity and discoverability. Just yesterday at their F8 conference, they announced that they're creating a lighter version. As Bonin mentioned, for the folks that don't have smartphones, they want to enable the full feature set of Messenger on feature phones. So they're redesigning the platform for that. They're enhancing the video chat capabilities of Messenger. They released Portal. Say what you will about that, that as a device, but it's interesting to see the interplay between what's happening on mobile and what's happening within the context of that space. And then they're hinting at platform interoperability. So what that means is WhatsApp, Messenger, Facebook Messenger, and Instagram potentially will have the ability to seamlessly connect between platforms without switching apps. And then, of course, Zuckerberg has talked a lot about that sort of privacy question. Within the WhatsApp space, within the past 12 months, we have their business app, which is launched, which basically allows businesses and customers to interact very seamlessly. You have the WhatsApp Business API, which connects that directly to their enterprise system. And then, interestingly enough, we have ads within the context of Facebook, the Facebook news feed, which you can click through and directly start messaging with a business. And that's a really huge opportunity in terms of thinking about what actually digital advertising can and will be moving forward. Just quickly, Google is trying to basically change the conversation around messaging for its Android platforms. It's introducing rich communication services, basically to be the competitor to iMessage. It has a lot of carriers on board, and it's basically expanding the capabilities of what one can do within that context. It's now possible to directly start communicating to businesses through Google Maps, through Google Search as well with its Google My Business platform. And then, of course, Apple stepping in to look at the business chat capabilities that are available there as well. And again, they have new capabilities that enable people to quickly start messaging with businesses within those conversations as well. Let's quickly talk about how brands are stepping in. I'm just going to highlight some of the interesting services that you can take a look at. Dirty Lemon, I know Zach is going to be up on stage here. They've built their business on top of direct-to-consumer messages through text. It opens up a lot of opportunities for them to engage with those consumers, and now they have the ability to create that same interaction offline. So you can go to one of their new physical pharmacy spaces, take a beverage from the cooler, text that what you bought, and then walk away. Really interesting how that sort of embedded behavior is continuing to grow. You have a platform like Snap Travel, which is focused specifically around hotel deals. Very simple. You text a number, what city you're going to, what dates you're going to be there. They text back with a number of hotel options that are 30 to 50% below market rate. They just got a new round of funding, and so they're looking to expand that platform with a number of new partnerships. Not necessarily chat in the classic or messaging within the classic sense, but Harvey Nichols, luxury retailer, saw an opportunity to activate the folks that were in their retail stores and directly connect them with people who are shopping online, creating that sort of reverse relationship as we think about that sort of blur that's happening within the context of retail in general. It's built on a white label solution called Hero. A person shopping online can directly engage with an associate in store. They can exchange photographs, messages, and then actually set up an appointment so that person can go directly into that store, see that same sales associate, and create that sort of one-to-one relationship there. Similarly, as Bonin mentioned, Jet Black, this is the premium service that Walmart has launched in connection with Jet.com. It's a pay-for-play service that's only available currently within the context of New York City. So people are paying for the privilege of having a dedicated concierge that can not only provide recommendations around their particular shopping behaviors, but then also offer same-day delivery. It's not just getting people to sort of repurchase commonly purchased products. You can say, I have a kid's birthday party coming up, what do you recommend? And they will look outside of the Walmart ecosystem. It's generating an incredible amount of data for Walmart that they can think about using more broadly as they think about expanding these services. And then is certainly creating a more sort of one-to-one loyalty standard within the context of these consumer relationships. One of the things that's super interesting about texting is that it's super intimate. It feels very private. Certainly, again, that's part of the broader conversation, but it enables people to ask things that they wouldn't normally ask. In this case, Planned Parenthood recognized that there was an opportunity to create new communication or conversations with teens. They can ask a chatbot specific questions about teenage sexuality, no judgment, and get responses back automatically. If necessary, it connects them directly to a live educator and then can connect to their appointment system as well. So I think this is a super interesting space, and that sort of level of intimacy and one-to-one is extremely important. Telegram, this is more of a platform play, but what I think is interesting here is that they just created a nuclear option within the context of their platform, which means that any two people that are communicating with one another, any one of those two parties can completely delete the chat history and have no record of that over time. I think there's something interesting about that sort of control, especially as you start to bring in brands and consumers and that relationship. Ultimately, consumers having control over how their information is kept and stored and who has access to it. The sort of notion of interactive onboarding certainly has a role within the context of media, but I think as you start to think about post-purchase support, particularly around products, there's a lot of opportunities that exist here. Quartz is doing an excellent job with its Quartz Brief. Download the app, have the ability to really sort of interact with a bot and go deeper into the day's news. It's sort of, they provide a level of conversation, and you can choose what to go deeper into and what to sort of continue through. They provide multimedia within the context of that as well. Really fun and suggest checking that one out. Similarly, around the healthcare space, there's a lot of opportunities within with using chat here. This is a platform called HealthJoy, which is specifically looking at how to help employees navigate their healthcare benefits, connect to the right services, understand costs associated, and bringing sort of transparency around everything there as well. Again, newish platform that's just gotten a new round of funding. So interesting space to explore, particularly as you think about the complexities and that sort of aftercare that happens once someone's locked into your system. Finally, thinking about just that sort of ecosystem that exists around chat and messaging platforms. WeChat, most popular messaging platform in China, has essentially apps within the messaging platform that connects to all of the various services and platforms that it offers, payment being the main one. 2.3 million branded apps that they offer within that space, 230 million daily active users, and on average, they interact with a mini program 4 times a day. Big space within the luxury market where essentially they're offering games, e-commerce options, etc. And then finally, as we think about the sort of loyalty reward space, something interesting, Kik is, again, another one of these sort of lower tier anonymous chat platforms. They have recently introduced a cryptocurrency that's built on Ethereum. The whole sort of idea here is to create an economy within the context of the app, which essentially rewards users for their participation within that ecosystem. It's essentially the currency itself is not worth that much right now, but as all these things go, it's interesting to see where that space might begin to play. Brands are stepping in to take part in this as well. Just a couple things to end off with. I know I threw a lot of information with you here, but why I think messaging is truly powerful. Number one, it's native. There's no additional apps to download, asterisk, but as mentioned before, these are the apps that people are already spending their time in, so they have them on their phone already. As we've seen, getting someone to go through the friction of downloading a new app is incredibly different, so leverage where your audience already is. It's intuitive, there's no learning curve, it's highly visual, and then it's an interesting gateway to voice and video as well. It's opt-in, push versus pull, especially in that initial engagement. You have the ability to give consumers control over what experiences they want to choose. It's personal, it's one-to-one, it feels private, intimate, and friendly. Instantaneous and on-demand. It moves at the speed of conversation. Bots supplement that conversation and provide your brand a voice 24/7. It's time agnostic, which I think is really interesting. You can have these instantaneous real-time conversations, but it's also asynchronous as well. So you can start a conversation and pick it up later, and there's a record of that conversation as well, which moves into that sort of personalization space. This is a rich context for collecting data from consumers, which then can be used to create a number of new personalized experiences. And then ultimately that sort of platform-friendly nature of it. So the ability to connect to a number of different services and different forms of media as well. That takes me to the end. Thank you.
Huge round of applause.